Hey there, anime addicts! We are back with another episode and excited to talk to you about anime. As you know, this podcast has been going on for 11 years, and we have over 500 episodes that you can enjoy. If you would like to help support our podcast, head over to animeaddicts.com/join to sign up for all of our bonus content. We have hentai episodes where we review hentai. We have hobby addicts where we talk about our hobbies outside of anime, anything ranging from video games to hiking. And then we have our after parties where we just talk about our lives and some of the behind scenes content. You could also find a link to our Patreon if you would like to support us that way. And of course, we understand that this is a very difficult time for a lot of people. So if you can't sign up, you can always help us out by leaving a review on our iTunes page. But thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoy. And let's go ahead and start the show.
来てくれてありがとう You're listening to the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Take your anime addiction to the next level at aaapodcast.com/join. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to, what episode are we on? We are on episode 552 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. Hello, I am Mandi. Only two of us today is me and Mason. Mason, how are you doing?
I am doing excellent. How are you personally, Mandi, and everyone listening? I like these two-person episodes. I feel like it's somehow more chill and more crazy at the same time. So
yeah, especially since I only have one monitor, so everything is all up on one screen. I've got over here Discord, I have over here OBS, over here Twitch, everything. It's crazy.
She fits the mayhem of Mitsugi's 5 monitors into single one. So
yeah.
It's a lot of moving parts up in the air today.
Today on Hobby Addicts, we talked about Overcooked, so it's kind of like that. We'll see if
it really is.
We'll see if this all ends up on fire. Hopefully it doesn't by the end. But yeah, so we are here dedicated to making your anime addiction worse. And before we start, if you would like to follow us on Twitch to get updates on when we are streaming live, we stream live every Sunday at 5 p.m. EST on our Twitch account. And you could also find us on our Facebook groups page where you can find just talk to all of our other anime addicts and find out what we have going on in the community. Also our Twitter page, and you can find a link to our Discord on our website at aaapodcast.com. And on Discord, we have a bunch of clubs that you can join, so make sure you do all of that. Today on our episode, we have two reviews for you to check out. So we have...
Wait, we do? Oh, no, I'm kidding.
Mason didn't watch anything, apparently. But we have our regular scheduled review, which is Millionaire Detective, Balance Unlimited. That's coming up later. But for our main topic, we are actually going to go back and review something that was passed a long time ago, but never received a review. So we're doing some backtracking there, trying to fill in some missing holes in the podcast since Mitz is not here. And we will be doing a review of the first season of Sailor Moon Crystal. So the first 14 episodes. So yeah, stick around. We have so much anime coming up for you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we talk about some news?
Not really. Excited to get to both of those, but yeah, a lot of big news this week as well. So I say let's just jump into it.
Yeah, let's jump into what we have going on in news.
Oh, 大ニュースです It's time for big news of the week.
So for my news topics, I chose 2 of them. And I was looking through the news this week, and there wasn't a whole lot that really grabbed me as like big giant news, but the first one is that they released a teaser trailer for the Yuri on Ice movie, which was like, I think, announced back in 2019, and we haven't really heard anything else about it since then.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have a teaser trailer out. It looks great. I'm super excited, but they announced that they still don't have a release date for it, but they said that it's not really in a place where they're comfortable releasing a date for it, but it is still going strong, and right now they're aiming to just further enrich the film. But if you want to check out the trailer for that, that is available on YouTube. My other little news topic, which isn't like huge news or anything, but the gaming app companies Broccoli and Bushiroad are apparently partnering together. So Broccoli, both of these companies deal with a lot of like the gacha game app games on mobile devices. So Broccoli brought over like Utano Prince Sama and a bunch of other little like rhythm-based games like that, and Bushiroad also does a lot of that. They do like Love Live and the Review Starlight one, and I think like Bang Dream and Card Fight Vanguard, I believe. But apparently they're entering a partnership together, and they want to like reboot a bunch of old franchises into like mobile app games. So I never stick around long with gacha games. I feel like I always start them and I play them for a little while and then I'm like, and forget they exist.
What was the idle one I played with you guys for like
Utano Prince.
3 days, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I can't get into gacha games. I see the matrix, I see the numbers behind them, and I'm just like, I see why people love them and why they scratch that itch.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's
not for me.
The gacha game part I just cannot get into, but I like rhythm games. So I was always in it for the rhythm game part, but as soon as it's like you have to spend money to collect cards, I'm like, not really interested anymore. But yeah, if you're looking forward to any of the titles that they have coming out, I don't have a list of them, but they just said they want to reboot some older franchises. But if
so are these Sorry, do we think these are franchises that used to be not rhythm games, gacha games that they're bringing back, or maybe like or gacha game adaptations of other franchises?
I think they're adaptations, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't really know, but if you're interested in like Broccoli or Bushiroad series or games, that's something you can look forward to.
I like real broccoli. Does that count for
I do.
anything?
I love Broccoli.
God, it's so great.
Yeah, so what you got?
My news is very much would touch the heart of Mitz because it's all about numbers. So this news story is in honor of him. But the Association of Japanese Animators, AJA, released its preliminary report of the 2019 anime industry market report and kind of how it did in 2019. They released kind of the results from last year's studies at the end of this year. So all of this pertains to 2019, but essentially they found that the market value of the anime industry rose 15.1% to a value of 2.5 trillion yen, which is equivalent to about 24 billion US dollars, which is double what it was a decade ago. So anime, as we all probably knew, but now we have a better number to point to, is more popular, more financially, erupting than ever before. So
heck yeah.
It's good and it's important, and no doubt if you look at the number of shows coming out and how many different industries are popping up around it with, you have the franchise whatever with like pachinko machines and slot machines and gaming stuff. Like everyone is trying to get into this pool with all these streaming sites and all that. So essentially the people who did this report thought that there's a potential that this year 2019 would have shrunk in value because of declining birth rates, less of a domestic market, and a lot of regulations that China has been putting on the market. But nonetheless, because of an increase in overseas market, commodities, and like I said, the gaming and the arcade and amusement centers, it bumped up considerably across the board. The biggest downturn in the industry, I think to no one's surprise, is like the TV and home market because of streaming becoming more popular, not just overseas, but in Japan. It will be interesting to see what happens in 2020 because of the coronavirus pandemic and everything influencing that.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, the full report of this with all the fancy numbers and stats and graphs comes out in English in a couple months. So it'd be interesting to dig into that. But nonetheless, it kind of confirms what we know, that anime is growing and is ever populous. So good to know.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm sure Mitz would go deep into the numbers if he was here, but
Oh, I'm sure.
you can read the report. Just look up AJA Anime Industry Report and you'll find it. So it's pretty interesting and it's a good time.
Yeah, and the larger anime grows and the more cool stuff we can have that comes out of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was wondering about like this year how the numbers have changed from COVID because so many, studios have been hit really hard by it, and production has been slowed down. So
see how that all eventually trickles down and support it in the best way that you can, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention that the Yuri on Ice movie is called Yuri on Ice Adolescence, and I love the memes coming out of it, like comparing it to Utena Adolescence.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a meme of like Yuri turning into a car, it's my favorite thing in the world.
Kerchow.
So, yeah, with that, I guess we can go into our review, right? You ready?
Yeah, review part 1. Let's do it.
Yeah, Sailor Moon Crystal.
So this came out in spring of 2014, so wow, forever ago. This was not pressed by Cram, which old school listeners remember was one of the OG in the Japanese era of the podcast, and he passed this on episode 239.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's been a hot minute. This is done by Studio Toei, and the synopsis for anyone in the world who doesn't know what Sailor Moon is tells the story of Tsukino Usagi, who's an 8th grade student, and one day she meets a cat named Luna, who has a crescent-shaped moon on its head, and is transformed into the sailor-suited guardian of love and justice. Yeah, Transformers, Sailor Moon. She meets the other
I had
sailor
a cup
soldiers.
for those
exactly
who are not watching live. I have a Transformers cup.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm not just blurting out other things. Cars, Transformers, Yuri. We got it. And essentially, her and the other Sailor Scouts defend Earth against all the evil powers that be. This is a ONA adaptation of the classic series, which follows closer to the 1992 manga than the original one that I think most listeners grew up with. Obviously done by Naoko Takeuchi, who was the mangaka of the time, and the manga and the original series kind of came out very much at the same time, which is why they kind of diverged a bit. But this is directed by Tomohiko Ito, who did the directing for Zombieland Saga and Mr. Love Queen's Choice from a recent season. And I mean, where do we begin with our initial expectations? I feel like you have popular shows, you have influential franchises, and then you have like Sailor Moon, like just a juggernaut of the anime industry. I doubt that your mom or any person in the world, if you're like, what is Sailor Moon? They could be like, oh, it's a Japanese cartoon. It's a show. Like everyone knows Sailor Moon. They might not have watched it. I'm pointing a finger at myself now, but like there is no quote unquote essential shows or things that you need to watch to be considered an anime fan. But nonetheless, Sailor Moon is like vital to a lot of what came after it and is such an important part about the industry that I want to know, Mandy, what did you think or what did you expect coming into Sailor Moon Crystal?
Well, Sailor Moon was one of those series that I grew up with. Like, I always credit Fushigi Yugi as being my first anime, and that's because I was still a kid when I watched Sailor Moon. I didn't really register it as being anime. I was just like, it's just a cartoon that you watch on TV. And there was definitely a lot of it that I forgot over time because, like Mason said, it diverges a lot from the manga. And there are a lot more just single episodes in there of just Usagi. Like, there's a lot just added in there. So, I don't know, like Mason said, Sailor Moon has just been such an important impact. It had an important impact on a lot of older fans of all types. But I also feel like, especially, I see a lot of women credited as like as Sailor Moon being a big positive influence in their life. And Sailor Moon, explored themes of like female power and friendship, with episodes that touched on topics that were important to like from kids to young teenagers, that about like developing strong bonds with your friends, to teamwork, to learning how to love and trust yourself. And it had a female hero that wasn't like your typical protagonist during that time. Usagi, she's the crybaby. That's kind of like her thing. She's clumsy. She wasn't the strongest and didn't really conform to like the pretty girl trope during that. Like that was like really popular during that time. And she had like an undying love for her friends. It would leap into just disaster for them. And although like she always says that like, Tuxedo Mask came to save me, she doesn't really do much.
Tuxedo Mask is so useless. Oh my god. Oh, sorry, we'll get to that.
He doesn't really do much. She always finds the strength within herself to fight her battles, but still like develops like a loving relationship alongside Mamoru. And while it isn't like the first magical girl show, I think it's definitely the most influential one. And it had like transformations that had the characters adorn makeup and jewelry and painted nails. All the things that were typically seen as weaknesses were being turned into what gave them strength. So there was definitely a lot behind Sailor Moon. Oh, and also, although they removed all of an English release because they censored everything, it had a lot of LGBT representation in there as well in the original. So there's a lot behind Sailor Moon. And I remember, man, it was funny because I remembered so much after just watching just Crystal. And I actually went back and started watching the original because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Their perfume pets called, what was it? What were they called? They're like they're like the Chanels or something. So there were some silly episodes in there before like this very streamlined story. But so I was hesitant to watch Crystal because I heard that it is very streamlined, but it follows the manga more closely, but also apparently it still didn't capture the life behind, or like the I guess the characters and the emotion behind Sailor Moon very well. This is what I heard before going in. So I never watched Crystal. I never touched it. So when we were like looking through what we could review, since Mitsu wasn't here as like a main topic, we were like, Sailor Moon Crystal. I was like, I should probably try it. So I didn't have great expectations going in. I was very wary.
Yeah, Sailor Moon as a franchise, I never watched it when I was a kid, and as a anime reviewer, I was like, I should know about this show. And I've watched an episode or two of the original, and I was like, okay, I get it. I get the appeal. I've heard where things like Mandy said of where she kind of went through why it's so important. I'm like, I get it. I can see that, and I see the life and stuff in the show. But I didn't need to go through all those episodes to get it. So I was like, no, what? Let me give Crystal kind of a shot as a newcomer to the series and see how it holds up as a standalone piece. But like Mandy said, I kind of heard the qualms about maybe it being a little too streamlined, a little too fast, maybe getting too much to the plot points, not giving the characters time to be the characters that people know and love. Mm-hmm. So I also went in with trepidation and kind of, let's see if this is the one that can kind of positively turn my spin on the series. So spoiler-free recommendation, Mandy, should people watch this show?
I think you should go back and watch the original.
I think so too.
Like even like when we got to Legend of the Galactic Heroes, the new thesis is like a streamlined version of the it follows the novel more accurately, and it like the original OVA added so much in there, and yeah, the new thesis is a more streamlined version of that. But even then, I was like, yeah, if you're new to Legend of Galactic Heroes, check it out. Like, it's still good. Like, yeah, it doesn't have all of the little details that the OVA added in, but it's still a great story. And I think it's definitely a classic that you should check out. This one, not so much. I feel like it would have a more negative impact on somebody new to the franchise than just going back and watching the original, or even just reading the manga. Yes, it does follow the manga more accurately, but it doesn't I feel like it lost a lot of the characters in it. Like they're I feel like they're so more emotionless. And like in the manga, they're bright, bubbly, cheerful. They have so much character and personality to them, and they just feel like empty slates in this. At least in the first season of Crystal.
I'm the smart one. I'm the Amazon one. I'm the Shrine Maiden one.
I just feel
Anything else?
I just feel like they're empty husks of what the characters used to be. And yeah, I don't recommend Crystal. I can't even recommend it to people where I'm like, if you don't feel like getting into like a 200 plus episode anime, check this one out. I can't even do that. I'd say read the manga if you absolutely need a streamlined version of it. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't recommend it. At least the first 2 seasons. I've heard from fans it gets better, but I'm not at that point yet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. Watch the original. If you're really nostalgic, read the manga. This series, especially the first 2 seasons from what I've heard, season 3 might be markedly better, but it was off to such a rough start. And maybe it's the fate of the podcast striking me down because I passed One Punch Man season 2 so many years ago, despite its flaws, because I'm just like, oh, this is a show that should be part of the discussion. And then no one cared about it. And it was kind of, I think, the same way here, where this show just, for as big of a franchise and as important a property as Sailor Moon is, this show just feels so cheaply done. And it deserved so much better. And luckily there is, the 1990 version that people can return to and be happy with, and it still probably holds up pretty darn well. But, I feel like we're about to jump into spoilers on a 6-year-old show, but there's really nothing here that is of any value. So don't watch it. Just listen to our review, chuckle, and go back and watch the original.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and put up a spoiler warning just in case. You never know.
Yeah.
And I will play the drop as soon as I find it. There it is.
Oh my god!
The volume was turned down. Just know that it said spoilers are coming. So yeah, where do you want to go ahead and start? First off, I would say, yeah, like I was saying, the characters feel so empty. Like, I don't know. It felt like they were trying to take it in a more serious route, and I felt like in doing so, it lost a lot of the charm behind Sailor Moon.
I feel like so much discussion I hear about the show is people talking about what their favorite sailors. Some people are like, oh, I love Sailor Mercury, this. Oh no, Sailor Jupiter is better. She's this. And I was like, oh, by watching the show, I'll finally learn which one is which and kind of form my own opinion and have a claim. But I watched the show and I just felt like I got no attachment to any of them. As I kind of joked earlier, they were kind of just generic tropes with the types they were. I was like, oh yeah, she was a Jupiter. Okay, I think she is thunder power because there's storms on Jupiter, so maybe. But like, she's big, and I wasn't gripped into any of them. And Usagi is, I don't know if she was, I get that she's a crybaby. I didn't have a problem with that, but she was like unapologetically throwing trash in someone's face. And she was just, I don't know, like, I didn't like anyone. All the female adults were like evil, and every male adult was pretty much absent. Like, no single person had any redeeming quality or value. Like, the best characters were the cats, in my opinion.
Aw, Lita and Artemis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I also, the original is, a very long franchise, and Usagi does start off as a crybaby who always puts herself down. She's always like, I am not good at anything. Like in her little introduction, she's like, I'm a crybaby and that's all. But she does get some great character development over time. But it's a really long series, the original. It's like over 200 episodes, I believe. But
she knows she's a crybaby. She like confronts it head on. She's not like the wandering witch person who's like, I'm the prettiest in the land. I'm so pretty, and just like doesn't realize that she's like, she gets what's going on. She's aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, she does get some great development in the original over time, where she ends up, getting more confidence in herself. And I think it was really funny how, I've read the manga, and it's been a while, so I had to go back and read it again. And I forgot how much in the original anime, like how much they added to her like the confrontations between her and Mamoru when they first meet, they hate each other. It's really funny. I feel like in Crystal, it's kind of funny going back and seeing it now that it's like she falls in love with him so fast. Like in the original anime, they like hate each other up until a certain point.
She hates this guy, but she loves Tuxedo Mask right off the bat.
That's true, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is true. Also, I like that she's a crybaby, and her first power is like being a crybaby to such a petrifying degree. Like she just cries so loudly that like enemies are like startled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's in the original too.
Sure, but like her first power is being a big crybaby. Like,
yeah,
that's her.
That's how she like stumbles into what she can do.
Well, she stumbles into what she can do by being too dumb to pass tests, so she doesn't get like trapped up in all the schemes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's in the original too. I mean, I don't feel like they changed, at least at the beginning, not her character too much from what I remember, but I did feel like the characters were just so bland. Like they were, they're more charming. They have more comedy moments together. Like in the original manga, like even in the original manga that is more streamlined and fast, doesn't have like all the filler episodes that the original anime does. They're bubbly, bright, cheerful, charming, and they have a lot of comedic moments together. And even in the streamlined version of the manga, you can still feel like the characters are bouncing off of each other, and like they're like an actual bond is growing between them. Where in this, I felt like when it got to the point where she's like ready to die for them, I'm like, I feel like you guys have no connection whatsoever. It just feels like they're all so empty. But yeah, like even the original, like there are a lot of comedic moments, but they do get serious when they are ready to beat down an enemy. But yeah.
Yeah, the lack of attachment I had to the characters definitely hurt the ending when it was supposed to be this big dramatic plot point of sacrifice and love and connection. And I was like, they're kind of nobodies, but okay, I get you.
Yeah, it's the first episode of Crystal, and when I also went back and watched the original of the anime, they're pretty close to each other, I would say. The introduction of Usagi and the introduction of Luna and what a Sailor Scout is, that all of that was pretty accurate. It's after that where they took out a lot of the episodes where, Usagi's on her own, because I forgot that it takes so long to get to the second Sailor Scout in the original. For a while there, it's just Usagi. I can't remember. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that's not episode 2.
No,
no. And
no.
then episode 3 and episode 4, like one per episode.
No, and I think Mercury was the second one, correct? But yeah, no, it takes a long time to get to her, from what I remember at least. But for a while there, it's just Usagi on her own and finding experimenting what she can do on her own and kind of like just fighting crime.
Did the original have as much sequences of kind of weird like Usagi cosplaying into like random professions? Like, I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to be a flight attendant.
Yeah.
I'm going to have these like iconic outfits, but it's not the best reason for doing so. I think they just wanted to show, hey, these are all really cool jobs to have.
I don't know about that, but yeah, she did have like the ability to change into different outfits. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I specifically remember like the flight attendant and the nurse, I believe it was. Yeah.
But why? Like, I guess I didn't really like their implementation. Like, I thought it was another cool power, but I didn't really see how it benefited anything.
Yeah, but I feel like in the original, a lot of it, of course, remember, this is aimed at kids. How many kids want to change into something else?
I get that this is a kid's show, but there were like so many moments. I have a laundry list that I will not go through, but a lot of things were just like, that makes no sense. That's not, how did episode 1, this fake Naru's mom like calls out to all her minions and they're all in their houses and then they're so slowly starting to amble to this like big confrontation. And then like a second later, everyone's there. Like, they wait like 30 minutes for all these like minions to arrive. Like, yes, it's a kid show. They don't have time. No one cares about that. but it bothers me, and I am bothered, and that's what matters.
You're a 28-year-old dog. But that's okay.
I know it's not for that, but did you watch this subbed or dubbed?
I watched it dubbed.
Did you, like me, perhaps get bothered by how often they said the legendary silver crystal?
I honestly don't remember in the original if they said it that often. I don't remember.
Oh, not so much the original. This in this iteration.
No, I don't think I noticed it after a while.
I hope no one is about to watch the show, but listen to how many times they say the legendary silver crystal. It's probably 20 to 25 times per episode. And I accidentally noticed it, and now I couldn't get through a single episode without it bothering me. I don't know. It was a fine episodic show. Like, I liked the introduction of each of them, but when the characters, like we said, are kind of whatever, it really didn't. It's just like, oh, it's another person with more powers. Cool. Like, I don't know. The first kind of 8 episodes were very episodic until the arc at the end. So I don't know if you want to talk about that or any moments along the ride.
Right now I'm just laughing at how chat's commenting about my cat because my cat won't shut up. They're like, Ravage will be heard. She has a lot to say about Luna. No, go ahead. What were you saying about the final arc? I think the one. Well, I guess we can talk about just the visuals and production later on because I think that's what hurt a lot of it. But minus all of the stuff that they took out of it. But I think the production behind it, which is really weird that for a franchise that's so massive, has been such a huge inspiration and has, to so many franchises and has such a large legacy behind it, that it just looks so poorly made. I just feel it's weird that happened that way, because you think they'd throw loads of money into it, but I don't know what happened in the production of it. Maybe something happened. I have no idea. I should have researched that ahead of time to see if maybe something happened along the way with the studio, because it definitely looks like something happened. But
it's easy to point to it and just say, oh, it's Toei being Toei, but I think it was more, there were issues with the timing of things. I think the mangaka didn't agree to a lot of their proposals. I think they came out with an original plan, and like the Sonic movie, she's like, no, change it. And they went with another one. She said, no, change it. And they kind of had a last second directing change where they kind of shifted it to a different team. Like, it seemed like there was a lot of that going on, and it certainly shows. And it would make sense on why season 3 got better, because they had that break in time to rescope, refocus, and address the complaints and concerns that people were having with it. So,
gotcha. Okay.
I think there was a lot on play.
What were you going to say?
I just want to talk about how dumb Tuxedo Mask is. He's so useless. Oh my goodness. He just appears, says, how about you do better? And then leaves, and she's like, oh my goodness, he's amazing. She literally grows a new tiara out of the literal hots she has for him. He shows up and she's like, my body, it's on fire. And because of that, she grows a tiara out of her forehead. Tuxedo Mask is just really good at giving smooches to sleeping girls that are a couple years younger than him. Besides that, he doesn't do much for a while, and
that's the meme behind it. But I also like that he doesn't steal the spotlight from her. He gives her the encouragement to be better, but he doesn't save the day, which is absolutely something that I appreciate for sure.
I certainly don't mind that, but then it immediately falling for him a little bit.
Well, yeah, and Crystal for sure. It takes a long time for them to become a thing, because she's attracted to just who Tuxedo Mask is in the original, just because of how handsome he is. But it takes a while for her and Momoto to actually start to develop a relationship, from what I remember in the original. Because for a while there, they fight every time they see each other.
I mean, I guess if I had seen this by itself, which essentially I did, I would be like, this show is just, it's so, I don't understand why people could like the show. But then when you talk about, oh no, it actually didn't happen over 5 episodes, it happened over 30 episodes, and it was a slowly building thing where, characters were developed and introduced and slowly like came together. I'm like, oh, well, now it makes sense why these characters are so together, and actual friendship, which is a big theme, would have counted for something instead of just slapstick, klutzy comedy and random legendary silver crystal explanations every 5 minutes. I don't know. There was just not much hair. It was sad. It was disappointing. I don't know. There's really not much more I can.
If there's one series I knew you wouldn't like, it's Sailor Moon.
Why did I pick it? I don't know. I was just like, oh, I should watch this show. It seems like a good thing to watch this show.
But
just watch the original, people.
Yeah, I do have quite a fondness for the original. I start watching it again. I'm like, oh, I remember this as a kid. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And I'm hoping that I'm watching it on... What am I watching it on? Not Hulu. I'm watching it on Hulu. And I'm hoping that they preserved a lot of the stuff that they censored and took out of the original. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever dubbed, but I guess we'll find out later on. I'm hoping they fixed it. But yeah, I guess production-wise, one of the big things that they changed, and I feel like it was a very sore spot for a lot of fans of the series, is the transformation sequences, because they tried to experiment with like 3D CG transformation sequences, and at least in season 1 they do not look very good. I think the one that only was okay for me was Sailor Mars, and I think that's just because it was mostly fire. But Sailor Moon looks like it. I don't know. It just looks too uncanny valley for me to be like, oh, this is really cool and interesting looking. I don't know. The CG
especially
didn't
when they're
well.
each like a minute long, and you're forced to like confront the fact like it'd be one thing if they were like, I'm trying to think, like, it's okay if they use the CG for like a single shot. And you're like, okay, they had to cut a budget here, they did it there. But like the transformation sequences were always copy pasted and always are essential and like iconic to the series. So like if there was one part to cut the budget, it wasn't in these transformation sequences, which we'll see every single episode. It's why things like the opening of shows look really good, because they're like, well, if we're going to show this for a minute and a half, we might as well make it count. So for them to make the most iconic part of the show almost into such a cluster is kind of confounding. And I don't know, when they're that long and drawn out, it was even more irritating. I would say it was more than just not great, but it's just so distractingly bad that once again, I heard that they went to fully animated ones for season 3, so I guess I'd almost want to look at those by itself to see what a new Sailor Moon show should look like.
Sorry if you're watching live. My camera froze. I don't know why. So I had to change the frame to make it go back. But anyways, that's fixed. Yeah, I think because, transformation sequences are such a big staple of the Sailor Moon franchise, I'm surprised they didn't put more attention on them. But, finding out all of the issues they had with Toei and the original mangaka, that I guess it makes kind of sense that they probably were forced to change things so often. Not that I know that's what happened, but I could definitely see how that probably had a big negative impact on it. And I think just the lack of expressions in the faces was a big part of it, because it lost a lot of the charm of the original Sailor Moon.
I will say, once again, I kind of loved and hated it at the same time. I know it's Usagi being a crybaby, but it's kind of weird how you get this full minute-long epic transformation with all these elemental powers surrounding her, and then she like makes a bold proclamation of dishing out some like punishment in the name of a celestial body, and then instantly is like, actually no, never mind, don't hurt me. Like, well, I think it seemed like a weird whiplash, like, oh, she's turning the tide, she's digging deep, and she's realizing, no, what, I have this power within me, and I'm going to take you down in the name of justice. And then she's like, actually never mind, I take it all back, don't, please stop.
I think in the original, for kids watching the show, that's what made her so lovable, because she was somebody that you could relate to. They made her very relatable, as like, not unbelievable. She just suddenly knew how to do everything. It takes her a while to find her own courage and her own like build up her self-esteem later on.
Was all their catchphrases the same?
Yeah. Mhm.
I'll fill you with regret, it'll leave you numb.
I don't know about that one, but
That one
hers was
a
definitely.
little. In the name of the moon, I'll punish you. Like, I get that. Like, that's solid. I'll fill you with regret, it'll leave you numb.
I don't remember. I don't know about that one.
Come on, Sailor Jupiter. You can do a little bit better than that. Oh, I do like, by the way, Sailor Jupiter, speaking of her, that because she is the tall one, that she gets the lightning rod attachment to her forehead because lightning would strike her. I thought that was a nice touch. I don't know. I guess I'm just so disappointed in the show for as much as it is bad, as much as it could have been good. And I think like that's my big sticking point and like concern. What did you think of, really quick, of the like 4 Dark Knights being like kind of paired with the 4 Sailor Scouts?
So
We kinda got,
that's
like-
a lot different in the original.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of other relationships and things that happen with them later on. I don't want to spoil it for people who might be new to Sailor Moon, but that's definitely a lot different. More Sailor Scouts come in also later on, but yeah, it's a lot different.
Well, I guess I don't have too much more to say. Like I said, I don't want to get into my nitpick laundry list, but watch the original, people. You'll be better off.
Yeah, definitely check out the original. I started doing that, and I'm probably just gonna watch that for a while. I was like, yeah, I just feel like just sit back and watching some old Sailor Moon. But Iko Hara did direct a big portion of Sailor Moon. You might like that. I think it's one of the movies, I believe. I can't remember. You might like the
Tammy
Iko
in
Hara
the
one.
chat just recommended that to me. So
Oh,
I'll definitely
cool.
check it out. I'm definitely not, like I said, luckily this series doesn't turn me off of Sailor Moon as a franchise. Just Sailor Moon Crystal as a entry into that, but not the wider landscape, which, as you mentioned, there's a lot of stuff out there for it. So I think I just need to find what is right up more my speed. So I'll give that a shot for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't recommend it if you're new to Sailor Moon. I think this would just put you off of it, and that's such a shame for such a big, legendary franchise. But, yeah, I don't have anything else really to say about it. Don't recommend it. Check out the original, because Sailor Moon is still wonderful. That's all I got.
That's a pretty good point to make. And I'm glad you brought up at the very beginning the Legend of the Galactic Heroes comparison.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's a re-adaptation done right. It's different, but still its own thing, whereas this is more like a Berserk, where it's like,
Yeah.
I know when my favorite series gets trashed, and I get that same feeling with Hair, so I understand. So I think with that, we can move on.
Yeah, I'm probably going to still finish Crystal just because it's so short compared to the original. I don't know, probably just to get it out of the way, because I did hear that 3rd season does get a lot better from what fans are saying, so
Is there
we'll see.
at all a chance you could like skip the 2nd season?
I probably could, because I mean, I know,
If you know the
everything
arc.
that happens, yeah. I mean, basic
Exactly.
gist of it. I don't remember details, because I was like a child, so... But we'll see.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing your opinion on season 3 and whatever is to come after that. But with that, we'll jump into our first in-show weekly trivia news break thing. So we'll give you a question about the Millionaire Detective Balance Unlimited, and you'll have a little bit of time to figure it out. And in that show, Daisuke Kanbei racks up quite a bill when solving cases. What episode results in the highest incurred cost, and about how much did it cost them? We'll let you know in just a couple of minutes.
Don't go anywhere. Hey there, anime addicts. This is Mandi, and I am bringing you your anime news break. First up, we have King's Raid Anime's Blu-ray disc release has been cancelled. The official release for King's Raid, Successors of the Will, revealed on Friday that the staff are cancelling the 6 planned Blu-ray disc releases of the anime due to quote-unquote various circumstances. The anime premiered on October 2nd, will have 26 episodes total, and is currently streaming on Funimation. The series is based on a South Korean smartphone RPG by the same name. It's unclear why the collection was cancelled, but I'm sure fans of the series will be disappointed to hear that it has been cancelled. But maybe we'll hear more news on the decision in the future. Up next, the free ad-supported streaming site RetroCrush is adding a few new titles to their current list of shows. The following titles will launch on consecutive Fridays during the month of December. On December 4th, you'll be able to find Ramen Fighter Miki. On December 11th, you'll be able to find Love Hina Again, Honey and Clover, and also Honey and Clover Season 2. And then on December 18th, they'll be releasing The Adventures of the Little Prince and the 1980 version of Astro Boy. All of these shows will be available with both the English subtitles and the English dub, but the English subtitle version of Astro Boy will launch in early 2021. RetroCrush is only available in the US and Canada, but if you have access to the app, then you'll be able to check these titles out very soon. Next, the Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba manga creator apologizes for the last volume not adding new epilogue pages. There is a little communication error when the wraparound jacket band in the publisher's preview printed that the 23rd and final volume will have 14 exclusive pages added to the story's epilogue. The series author, Gotoge, apologized for the confusion and said that the final volume will not have extra pages for the story's epilogue, but will instead include content that was originally cut during certain points in the magazine serialization. The list of additions will include an 8-page and 6-page section that were cut from the manga, 4-page exclusive illustrations, 8 pages of special exclusive manga content, a 2-page text afterward, and 11 pages of exclusive pencil sketch art. The final volume will release in Japan on December 4th, so you can look forward to that content in the future. And finally, the Inspector anime is getting a second season. Kodansha announced on Friday that the television anime adaptation of Kyo Shirodaira and Chasiba Katase's Inspector manga is getting a second season. They revealed a PV for the second season that recaps the events and characters from Season 1, but it did not reveal a premiere date. Season 1 premiered last January, ran for 12 episodes, and is currently streaming on Crunchyroll. So if you liked Season 1, then you may be excited to know that Season 2 will be coming very soon, and the PV is available for you to check out on YouTube. Again, thank you so much for supporting us, and if you would like to drop us a review on iTunes, we'd greatly appreciate it. You can also go to our website at aaapodcast.com and sign up for all of our exclusive bonus content. And we just, as long as you're here listening to us, we greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much for sticking around, and let's get back to the show. And we are back. Before we went on break, we had a trivia question for you. The trivia question was, in the show, The Millionaire Detective Balance Unlimited, Daisuke Kanbei racks up quite a bill when solving cases. What episode results in the highest incurred cost, and how much was it? The answer is episode 9, A Golden Key Can Open Any Door, and the cost was $2.6 billion US dollars. So yeah, we'll be talking about that later on. But right now, we are ready to talk about some movies.
That's right.
Alrighty, let me play your drop.
Get your popcorn ready. It's time for Unexplored Pictures with Mason.
That sounds about right. I actually just was going on to my Annie list and putting the Sailor Moon movie on my watch. It's on Crunchyroll. It's free. I'm gonna watch it
Oh, nice.
as soon as this is over. Do I need to know anything before I watch it?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably
It'll
not.
probably be good. It's Ikuhara. I won't understand it anyway. Today, I'm here to talk to you about a movie that I think you guys should watch. It's called My Miracle. It's 93 minutes long. Came out in 2009. I was planning on talking about this when it was available on iTunes, so forgive me for taking so long to get to it. But nonetheless, the Blu-rays aren't too expensive on Amazon. So it's done by Studio Madhouse, and it's expertly directed with fantastic perspectives and clarity by the Kinema Junpo award-winning director Kadabuchi Sunao. He did the fantastic Arete Hime. He did more recently In This Corner of the World, and he also did Black Lagoon, if you want a weird shake-up. Visually, this movie could easily be confused with a Ghibli film. If you are a fan of Only Yesterday or My Neighbor Totoro, you shouldn't not skip out on this. The scenery and setting is exquisite. It takes place in 1955 in the rural town of Mitajiri in Yamaguchi Prefecture, and My Miracle tells the story of two elementary school girls, the bold Shinko and the transfer from Tokyo Kiko, as they kind of live out these lives full of imagination, and they kind of envision what this modest rural town must have been like 1,000 years ago when it used to be the capital of the prefecture and teeming with culture and life and all these really important people. And this imagination leads them down a rabbit hole as, to the viewer, we, right now in 2020, see 1955 as history, and these characters from 1955 are looking back at the history of 1,000 years ago, and even those characters look back on the history of their origin. And it's kind of this caterpillar of seeing how the influence of the ages has carried through, and their imagination of these girls leads to a lot of unique and neat directing tricks where they kind of see the world in these different ways, and artistically the movie represents them with different like drawing styles. So it's kind of cool, and all of this kind of occurs within Shinko's mind as she runs around farms and fields and sees the world for what it used to be. It's a very relaxed, stress-free movie, besides a death or two at the end, and it is as slice of life as they come. So if you are kind of like, oh, slice of life is bland, this movie is not going to change your mind. But if any of my previous statements about the other shows, about like This Corner of the World, Only Yesterday, Nan Nan Biori, A Letter to Momo, or any of the other guys' works like Arete Hime besides Black Lagoon is your cup of tea, I'd say try to get your hands on this. It's worth a watch. It's appropriate for people of all ages. It does have to deal a little bit with the nature of loss and leaving, but it is a very cool and relaxing and interesting look at a little town and some nice characters. So that's My Miracle, and it's a pretty good time.
Sounds good. I'm going to check that one out. Thank you, Mason.
No problemo.
And up next, we have our mailbags.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime. Anime. Anime.
Mailbag.
So if you would like to leave us a mailbag, go to aaapodcast.com. There's a mailbag button there. Click it, and you can ask us questions or just leave us a nice message. We'll read it on the show. This one is from You Had Me at Hentai. We have a
You're
hentai
welcome.
episode. Yeah, right. We have a hentai episode coming up later on, so look forward to that. But they say, hey, MMM and Enzo, winky face. How are you guys doing? I just came across your podcast 2 weeks ago. Mitsuki, I backtracked. I fell into the rabbit hole, and it felt so good. All the convos with Chiaki and Cram, and the tips from when you all lived there. I'm guessing Japan. Thank you for leaving most of the episodes on iTunes. I believe the podcast starts on episode 150, and in the 2 weeks, I have listened to at least 30 whilst being at work. Enzo, you're insanely relatable. Mandi, you're so much fun. Oh, thank you. Mitsuki, you are so grumpy and insightful. Mason, you are my favorite because you just get it, you know? I have a feeling we'd be friends in real life. And you all
Aw,
are
thank
so
you.
knowledgeable. Thank you so much for all the hard work that goes into this podcast. As a listener, my job is minimal. I just click a button. But yours is a lot of work, and it is so appreciated. I am now a supporter of you on the site. Thank you all love you all so much. Thank you. And yes, it's
So
true.
nice.
You click a button, but I click at least like a 15 billion of them. I'm my clicking finger is getting a workout today. That's
Clicking
really
is hard.
sweet.
That was a very nice message.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, your mailbags, you can ask us questions, but you can also just leave us a sweet message.
And listening is not so easy. You listened to 60 plus hours of the podcast over the last, 2 weeks, last week. So you did more than your fair share. And I know Mitz would say, obviously, the best thing you can do is spread the word, spread the love, and share that addiction with your friends. And yeah, maybe we do a little bit of work, but it's all worth it when you guys interact with us and respond and give us the good vibes and mojo. So thank you for the kind words and support. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really sweet. Alrighty, up next we have our review of Millionaire Detective, Balance Unlimited. So this one I passed back on episode 536. It was originally picked up by Enzo, but then it got delayed due to COVID, so he had to fail it. So then I got it in the next round of impressions, and I passed it. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, there really wasn't much to pass that season. And I remember saying that this is one that I probably would have failed normally, but the show's got to go on. We got something, right? But this one was at least fun, is what I remember my impression being. But yeah, so you can watch this on Funimation. The studio is Studio Cloverworks, and it is an adaptation of, I believe, an old novel series in Japan.
That's correct.
The director is Tomohiko Itao, who worked on Erased and Sword Art Online and Silver Spoon, which is crazy. I had no idea he worked on Silver Spoon.
Yes, one of those things is not like the other.
Yeah, that's so crazy. But yeah, so what is Millionaire Detective? Millionaire Detective Balance Unlimited is about a very rich man named Daisuke Kanbei, who becomes partners with the detective Haru Kato. And Haru wants to be a good cop who just follows the book. And Kanbei wreaks havoc and just, pays for all the damages afterwards. He just, uses money just to get what he wants. The two just constantly clash with one another. And in the first few episodes, it's a little bit episodic, just kind of like their personalities bouncing off one another. Later in the story, or later in the series, this one is only 11 episodes, by the way. But later on, it does develop a little bit more of a kind of linear story where it goes, or it starts focusing more on Kanbei's family and some drama in there. So, yeah, I guess we can go into our expectations going in.
I had very mixed expectations of the show. On one hand, it is, because it's 11 episodes, it is a Noi Tamina show, which always gets my attention. I have a soft spot for that series. One day I think I want to do like a Noi Tamina worst to best list, because I think there's so many important shows in that programming block. Another good thing about it, it is based on a novel. It's done by the same guy who wrote The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Paprika, two massively successful movies that are pretty interesting. So on one hand, that was looking good. Cloverworks, the studio, has a really knack for making things look sharp and tight looking and really cool. So a lot going for it, as we kind of maybe spoiled. The director seems to be a little hit or miss. He seems to be the king of wasting potential of a really good show that kind of falls apart besides Silver Spoon. So I was overall kind of positive, but wary based on the comments that Mandi made when she was passing it, where she's like, hey, it's a fun show, but maybe wouldn't have been a pass in another season. So I didn't know anything besides money is always the answer. So I was going in with that kind of mindset.
Yeah. So my expectations were pretty low going in, because I did do the impression of it, but also I know this one got hit pretty hard by COVID. This one was one of the first shows that got delayed straight away. So I knew what to expect going in. And I know a lot of series, like even very popular ones like Haikyuu are getting hit really hard by COVID, and it really shows, which unfortunately we can't control that this part of the world right now. But so I knew what to expect going in terms of that, and I knew I liked the OP. I thought that was fun when I did the impressions of it, and the story didn't really strike me as anything unique, and I wasn't sure how it was going to progress because Kanbei, my first impressions of him were he's, the whole internet exploded because he was hot.
Yes.
Everyone exploded. This dude was hot, but he was also a real big dick. So, I don't know. I was curious how that was going to continue because the first episode did not give me positive impressions of him. And I thought it was going to just do the same joke over and over. And I remember passing it because I was like, you know what? Even if it's not unique or anything, at least it's fun. At least it's stupid and silly. So I didn't have high expectations for the rest of the show. But I guess with that, we can go into spoiler-free recommendations.
Yeah, overall, I would say probably not a recommendation for the show. I think if you want this cool, fun, lighthearted, not detective show, but maybe go for like Great Pretender from what little I've seen of that show. Like, this is a story of a stylish and suave like Bruce Wayne, but with none of the struggles. Like, the show has potential, but it seems to play things very safe, very flat, and really wasn't engaging most of the time. There's no stakes in anything, so it has to be a cool and fun show. The problem is there's no interesting or absurd or clever ways to solve the problems. It's always, we'll buy our way out of it, and like weird gadgetry that always is exactly what they need at the right time. It's like if someone used the same move in a fighting game over and over and over and kept on winning. It's like, yeah, it's effective, but after 11 episodes, I grew a little tired of it. I think the ending arc where they actually string a couple plot points together across a couple episodes is probably my favorite part of it, but overall I wasn't too engaged with it throughout the time. So I'd probably say no recommendation, but if anything we say sounds interesting, it's worth giving a shot to.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it a strong recommendation, but I think it's fine. It's okay. It's not, something that you're going to go into and be like, this is my favorite new anime ever. But it's kind of like a fun time waste. It's silly. It has some very silly, stupid moments, but I think the end, like towards the end, the last few episodes actually started getting really serious, which kind of threw me off because, Kanbei was a lot different than what I was expecting going in. He changed a little bit, also in there are places that he didn't change much, but it's fine. I would say it's just okay. It's I would definitely recommend Great Pretender over this, just because of how stylish and how sometimes clever Great Pretender can be. This one, it's listed as a mystery, but it's not really much of a mystery. So, I don't know. I think if you just like, I guess, spy, not... It's not even much. Yeah, spy-esque. I wouldn't even say action. It's just silly, especially if you like hot Kanbei. You get plenty of that later on.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I know there was a lot of issues with COVID and stuff, and I wonder if that had a hand in the dubbing having some issues, perhaps. But I would say if this had a better dub, this would be a perfect like background show. Like, throw it on and just kind of like watch it and enjoy it for the moments that you're engaged with it, but kind of leave it on. Like, it's a good background show, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't watch the dub. I didn't even know I had a dub.
I watched a couple episodes in both ways to see how it compared, and I think like the dub has like 8 episodes out. Like, I definitely think they might have had some issues with COVID, and which is why some of it sounds very odd. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you need shows to fill up your slots, go for it. But if your time is worth more than fine, probably skip out on it.
Yeah. Yeah, not a strong recommendation, but it's just okay. Especially if you like hot guys, you can check that out. And Mamoru Miyano is in it. I mean, it's Mamoru Miyano. I have to recommend it for that. He doesn't have some really great moments like a lot of his other shows, but it's still there. With that, I'll go ahead and go into our spoiler section.
Spoilers are coming. Oh my god!
Alrighty, spoiler section is up, and yeah, where do you want to start?
I feel like I guess once again, do you want to start with characters or plot?
Let's start with
I can go either way.
characters because I feel like the character Kanbei is probably the draw of the show. So, or like his relationship with Kanbei and Kato
Haru
or Haru.
or yeah, sorry. I feel like I might be in the minority here. I really did not find either of them that interesting. I think the way they play up against one another, with one being, like you said, by the code, doing things the right way, and Daisuke being just laissez-faire, like I can spend money so I can do whatever and break the rules and just be an absolute unit, like is a cool concept, but I just didn't find either of them that engaging. Like all the dialogue that had any characterization is like where they're sneaking through a vent and Haru looks at him and is like, oh, you're wearing elevator shoes? And then he kind of gets kicked. Like I could see like the seeds of a interesting dynamic there, but I just don't think it succeeded in any of them.
Kanbei actually kind of surprised me later on because he ended up not being as blatantly just awful as I was expecting, but he ended up just being more naive, I think. I don't know. At least up to a certain point. There are some points later on where he does some very shady things that I hate, but I know that's kind of the point of the show, though. But I think my favorite episode, honestly, my favorite episode is when Kanbei doesn't want to go home and ends up not having any money and goes over to Haru's house, and just them being together in his house is honestly my favorite episode.
Without question, the best part of the show, as you just said, is the most engaging points where Daisuke is learning to live the poor life.
Yeah.
And he's just hanging out with Haru, and they're shopping at a store, or they're cooking food, or they're just watching TV. Like, those are always the best moments of the show. And unfortunately, the show is mainly full of them not doing that and just solving cases. Like, if this was just slice of life with Haru and Daisuke for 11 episodes, it would be fantastic, and I would be like, yes, you watch the show, they're so cute, it's a great combination. Like, that's where they get to really be the characters that I think the show wanted them to be.
Yeah.
But when they're like stuck solving things that they don't really care about, that's when it was just like, I don't there's something here, but it's missing it.
That moment when Haru is trying to like cook something really super fancy to like satisfy his rich palate, I thought was really funny. He ended up hating the rich thing and ended up loving like the cheap food. It's really cute.
Well, even then he's like, oh, I splurged and then like got this like
really fancy meat.
Yeah, and the guy's like, no, don't.
Yeah,
dog food out of here.
I kind of like that it didn't spell out exactly what was going on, but you could tell like through like flashbacks and at home where they're trying desperately to find out where Kanbei is. He just doesn't want to go home because they all kind of just are very controlling of him. So I thought that was really cool. But sorry,
I was just gonna say, and then at the end, the climax of that is Daisuke learns like a cheap recipe that he brings back, and he's all proud and boastful of it. He's like, "Look what I made! It only costs $2." And everyone's like, "Wow, Daisuke!" And he's like, "Yeah, like that was great. That's what I wanted."
That episode was so charming, and I fell in love with that episode. I was like, "Oh, I just want them to be in love now." But yeah, sorry.
There's a moment where like they liken him to a dog. Like Haru and Daisuke are out there looking for a kid's missing dog. And he's like, oh, it'll go home when it gets hungry. And then just like that, the people who watch over him are like saying, oh, Daisuke, he's like a dog.
Yeah,
like,
he'll come
that
home.
was such a nice parallel. Like that was episode 4 probably was the strongest episode of the batch.
Yeah, and before that, it is kind of funny. You get like a silly laugh out of just how ridiculous Kanbei is, because I think that's part of like the draw of it, is just how over the top and ridiculous it is, where like Kanbei will just crash his car into everybody and like move cars out of the way and just goes write checks for everybody whose car was damaged. It's just stupid over the top. He's like, you know, instead of like trying to get a search warrant, he just guns down an entire or blows up an entire building.
He buys the building so that he doesn't have to face the repercussions when he blows it up. Yeah. Like I like when his wealth is like kind of covers his ass for like the destruction that he brings. I don't like when his wealth is like allowing him to get these weird gadgets that allow for this weird thing to happen and gives me this chemical gas agent. Like, that was a little too, like, a cheap way out.
Yeah, the very shady parts that I absolutely hated, where I hated Kanbei as a character later on, is when he does things like Hex, like uses his, what's it called? The Heskum,
It's like HESUC.
I can't remember, like the computer that
The
AI
AI
thing
system.
that he has. He uses it to hack into a woman's car to make it speed so then she can get arrested so he can question her. I was like, that's the kind of dirty ass shit that unfortunately happened. Well, not like that, but you know, that's the kind of stuff that like would happen in real life and you're like, no, that's awful.
To be fair, Dice, and I'm not saying this was allowed, but like a lot of the other cops were doing that too when they did like
Yeah,
a flashback and the guy's like, oh yeah, I just stole their information from like a photo book and stuff. And you're like, aren't these the good guys?
Yeah.
Or aren't they supposed to not be like doing illegal practices to like, and it wasn't
Or,
like
like-
ever played for laughs or comedy. It was like, oh no, that's fine. You can do this.
Or drugging somebody to get a confession out of him. And like, so he hallucinates. That was very
Where'd you-
awful.
Where do you draw the line? Yeah, on retina projected virtual headsets to trick your people into think you're getting a pseudo confession to dial their phone number in the game, which is like what they would dial in real life. I was like, oh, this
Yeah,
is
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the silly things where he's like buying buildings so he can blow it up. That's funny, you know, but then later on he uses his wealth in ways that are like, ooh, I don't know if I can like him as a character because this is awful. But I know it's like the point of it is because, you know, Haru is supposed to be there to be the guy who wants to follow everything by the book, and they constantly clash with one another in terms of this. He's like, what are you doing? He blames him for like the murder of that woman who later on somebody else hacks into her car and blows it up. And everybody thinks it was Kanbei. Like, I'm happy that came back at him for doing that. They just didn't like magically get away with it, but it was still like, I don't know. Like, I know it's the point where Kanbei is looking for something very, in particular, he's looking for specific information that is tied to his family situation, but in that he's willing to do anything to get that info, but it still leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
I think the only time that he used his money in a way that I thought was kind of clever, a little illegal, let's not lie, but still kind of clever, was where he sent like a message to all these people's phones that's like, hey, if you hold your phone up and spin around, you get like $1,000. And like when they hold their phone up and spin around, like he hacks into like the video system to like essentially get a bunch of cameras all over the city to find like the culprit. Like, I was like, sure, that's unbelievably impractical, but at least that's somewhat clever.
I thought the little other little sidekicks were kind of cute when they're in the van. They're like, go up on top and hold the radio antenna, and he's like going all over the place trying to find out like where the connection is, and then he's like falling off of the van. They're like, right there, stay there. He's like, I can't.
Well, so once again, he decided to go up there and take his shoes off ahead of time for no reason other than to have to drop the thing and catch it with his feet. So they had a bunch of like toes like all around this like antenna. I was like, oh, come on. Like, it was a little campy, but nonetheless, the best characters were not the main ones. I loved all their like kind of goofy assistants, or I should say co-detectives that didn't do anything, but were definitely the kind of weird, scummy, but in lovable ways. I loved episode 1. Probably some of my favorite characters were these no-name like couple that were like going to rob a jewelry store. And they were would walk up to a store and they would be like assessing the security guard and be like, could you take him in a fight? If we robbed, could you take him? No, he looks scary. Let's move to the next one. They keep on like going from store to store, trying to find like the weakest looking security guard until they hit a gold mine, which is a store with no security guard. And they're like, okay, this is our place.
Yeah.
And they go in to rob it, and it's a chocolate store. Like that couple right there in their mini arc was more engaging than anything from Daisuke. And the show had so many moments where I was like, yes, okay, here we go. It's time to turn the tide. We're about to do it. And then it just fell flat.
Mm-hmm. So later on, we do get into a little bit more of a linear type of story where Daisuke is trying to find information on his family situation because he remembers that As a kid, he thinks his father killed his mother, and now there's somebody who he thinks is his father going around and committing a lot of crimes around this data just known as adolium. Is that what it was?
Adolium. It's
Adolium?
some chemical material that is like the new version of plutonium and
Yeah.
has far-reaching.
Like a new like type of energy, I believe. And I guess it can also lead to a lot of new weapons that they don't want to be released, but it can also be used as a form of new like energy source. And so his father was researching it and was going to release the information, and his mother was like, no, we can't let that happen. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, his mother was going to turn it in. Sorry, that's reversed. His mother was going to turn it in. His father didn't want it to happen. And, but it turns out his grandma had his mom assassinated. That was just crazy.
The grandma asked her son to assassinate his wife, and he's like, that's not a good look, fam. I'm not gonna. So she locks him up in the basement for years, has his wife murdered, and like frames him for it, all under the guise of this material, this chemical. Just the world isn't ready for it, and that's how we're gonna keep this family secret of this chemical warfare like under wraps.
Yeah, towards the end, I don't know. Like, I could see, like, yeah, if you really hate episodic shows, that it does like develop a story type kind of story that I could see people who really hate episodic shows would like that. But for me, I like just the silly moments of the show that were like, yeah, we're buying buildings and blow them up and shit. I don't know. Towards the end, I think it got a little bit too serious for me. Like, you know, like it didn't fit in well with me when you look at like the beginning of the show, what you are into the show, like when you first started up, what attracted you to it. I don't know. Towards the end, I had too many questions that were like God, your grandmother murdered her own like her stepchild. That's crazy.
The most interesting part about this last episode arc, which is episodes 7 through 11, is that like this whole time Daisuke like really relies on this AI like Hugh's component of his, you know, finances to like pay for everything and determine routes and do all this. And all of a sudden he's having to solve this mystery, and this AI is like blocking access from him and almost going against him. And it's like, oh, there's someone with even better access than he does. It's got to be someone in the family. Like, and like him having to solve this without the aid of maybe all of his finances had the potential to be interesting. But nonetheless, he just puts a blanket over his head and the AI can't track him. And like, it just, a lot of things fell apart. Once again, as I've said 1,000 times, potential, but just executed in a way where it left you scratching your head and was like, this wasn't really rewarding or engaging besides a couple moments. It had some kind of rough action scenes, had a classic like Mission Impossible, oh, it's a rubber mask disguise at the end. Like
that was very silly.
it was just not rewarding. It's what you expect it to be the whole time, and the twists are just cheap. It's just, I don't know. I don't have much more.
Yeah, it had a very Scooby-Doo feeling at the end. Like, aha, I pull off my mask, and like my perfect mask of your father, and I'm the butler the entire time.
Exactly.
It was very silly. The ending was very kind of anticlimactic, I'd say. It's like you said before earlier during impressions, that it plays it a little bit too safe. It felt like everything kind of just cleaned up so nicely. Like, I did like that Haru got over his trauma, because during the whole show he's traumatized because he remembers accidentally shooting an innocent woman, who I think she had a toy gun when she lifted it, and you know, he thought that she was pointing a gun at him, and he shot her and killed her, and that's been very traumatic for him throughout the whole show. And then he got over that trauma towards the end, but
and then strangled the guy to death.
Yeah, and then that's freaking crazy. Like, the show doesn't make any sense sometimes. But I don't know. It's like it cleaned up a little bit too nicely at the end, where there were all these questions like, what are we gonna do with this information that we found? Like, they put it all on Kanbei. Like, are you going to, release it, or are you going to keep it hidden? And then turns out Haru stumbles and ends up sending the information off, and everything is just happy. Kanbei's like, ha ha ha.
It had one decision to make, which could have like left a tone to the series and like actually would have made you sway or have an opinion on this guy, and like raises an interesting question, and the guy's like, no, I'm injured. I'm gonna lean on the table. Oh, I've activated it. Oh well, looks like no decision was made. Consequences, haha, we have money.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, that was really disappointing.
Was it confirmed that girl who aimed the gun at Haru was a toy gun?
I thought that's what they said, but I could be
like
wrong.
A bank robber who was going in. So the guy Haru I don't know, neutralized him, but then like a girl came out and like picked up the gun and then aimed it. I wasn't too sure, but nonetheless,
she was with the guy who was robbing. I think she knew him. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I think she was at the bank, like maybe in on it, or like it doesn't really matter. It was kind of just something to trigger his like downfall of the first division, which we really kind of got only a little interplay with. I like the train where they're kind of like fighting each other for like who gets the right to like reprimand the suspect. I do think Daisuke like getting this like entire idol group to descend from a building on a lift within like a matter of minutes was a little absurd, but I guess I can forgive it when it's trying to be fun.
I thought,
and,
yeah, exactly. I thought that was like the fun part.
Just like freaking out and like, oh my goodness, our idols were here, and like that like causes them to like revolt against the guy. Like those are like dumb, stupid. It doesn't make sense. Mason like critiques it and nitpicks it from like a logical standpoint, but those are moments that could reward itself by being fun. And yeah, it's stupid, but it's engaging and silly enough to earn it in a way, which is what a lot of the show doesn't do elsewise. And I like episode 1 ends with Daisuke letting Haru fall like off a bridge into the water after like looking down at him, and they like go for a similar joke at the end of 11, and I think they didn't need to show the flashback. I think we would have gotten it.
Yeah.
When you like, if you don't think that your images and like message was strong enough to like have people remember them, like that's kind of a weak sign. I was like, okay, we get it. We didn't need it. Maybe it's because we watched it all within a week. I
wonder
get that.
how much of that was COVID and probably just trying to fill up time desperately and like reusing images.
You very well could be right, and I wouldn't take it away from you. But like nonetheless, it felt like, oh, this big scenic moment. I don't know. It's like if in the Terminator he'd be like, I'll be back. And they'd be like, ooh, maybe they didn't hear it or remember it. And they like show a flash. It's like, no, like you have to have trust in your viewers that they will remember the references from earlier. But it wasn't a game changing.
And they didn't even really change all that much. He still let him fall off the bridge.
Yeah, which was funny. I'll give it that. That was funny. But the show looked, I would say, pretty good. I would say it looked good, but not stylish or well animated. Like, and it was sometimes a little cartoony, like when this big bad like scoots away on a hover bike after like proclaiming that he's the evil guy. Like overall, it looked good, but not impressive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought it looked fine, and I think the first few episodes were, some more the better parts of it. But I definitely think it just got hit super hard. From what I remember, this is like the first show that was like, we can't even function right now. They shut everything down.
Yeah, we knew pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
that was something that I knew what to expect going in. How'd you feel about the OP? I thought the OP was actually pretty decent.
The electronic dance pop James Bond OP?
Yeah, but I mean, like, the visuals are fun. I like that moment where he like blows out the smoke from his cigar.
Yeah, with it's
it had a very sexy kind of James Bond feel to it.
Yeah, it has the girls in lingerie for no reason, tied up for, you're like, oh, maybe that's an allusion to what'll happen. No, it's just them in their underwear, as you do. But it wasn't bad, but I pretty quickly started skipping it each time.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the ED was probably equally fine. I just think it wasn't really my style of music, but I just don't like when the shows say the name of the show in the opening a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't get what Balance Unlimited was, if that makes sense. Not the show, but like the term Balance Unlimited.
It's an unlimited balance.
I thought it was going to be like, oh, he made a friend. This is he has money in the bank, but the Balance Unlimited, that's in your heart. That's in your connection with your Nakamas. That's with him making a friend finally and like finding love or something. No, it just means he literally has all the money.
I have no idea how he keeps all that money too. Where is it coming from? But that's like any show where there's like a billionaire who never really works.
Also,
like, where does all this money come from?
So they made it seem like this house, this hidden house where all this research is taking place is somewhere. They just gotta find it. And I guess it's just attached to the house. Like it's like a couple meters away. Like I get not having a huge estate and not knowing like all the side doors and passages. I get that completely. But they're like, oh, where could this house possibly be? And it's like literally next door.
Yeah. There's some very, very silly moments.
I don't know. The show, if it was cooler looking, if it was more fun, if it had more engaging characters, if it just exuded style, it could have cleared the bar. But otherwise, it was just kind of lackluster, which I think we've hopefully made clear. So,
true. Chat's saying if he had $1 billion in the bank, he could use the interest of that billion, I guess. That's how he just never runs out of money. I don't know. He spends a whole lot.
Spends what did we say he spent? Like
it was like
24 billion
per episode.
Yeah, 2.4 billion, 2.6 in one episode.
Question.
How?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I think it's fine. It's just an okay show. Plays it very, very safe. And I think you can just watch it just for the silliness of it. And of course, if you think Kanbei is super hot and attractive.
I mean, you got that. He's got that sleepy eye, like, douchebag look to him.
Yeah, and I do think the episode with him and Haru is actually really cute. I love that episode.
I would say, if it seems a little bit engaging, at least watch episodes 1, and you could probably just jump to 4 afterwards. You'll be fine with that.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to add on?
Nope.
Alrighty. Well, we are at the end of the show, so thank you so much for hanging on and for listening. You can also go to all of our social media accounts, find us on Twitter, where you can get updates on what we have going on in our community. I am on Twitter as Mandi X Mandi.
Not changing that one yet?
Nope. Keeping it for now. I will stay Mandix Mandy for a while longer.
YOLO. You can find me at Twitter at Macy Pacey. I post a bunch of random stuff, and that's how Twitter works.
That's kind of like the whole point of Twitter.
Yeah, I'm figuring it out. I'm slowly getting there. Give me a chance.
You can also find us on Facebook, on our groups, and Discord is where you want to go to find out, or just to join all of our clubs. What do we have going on in our clubs?
We got so much. First of all, I want to announce the running club met our November goal of reaching a certain number of miles. We had one member, really enterprising young man, who decided to pretty much do the entire challenge by himself. So congrats to you. But nonetheless, everyone else who chipped in, much appreciated. I want to give a preemptive shout out to the seasonal watch party. Obviously, every Saturday, we watch a bunch of shows from the currently airing season, and it's a bunch of fun. But with the next season about to get released, make sure you're there so you can help decide what shows we watch week to week. So get in there. Anime Club, we will be discussing Crest of the Stars, December 2nd at 10 p.m. EST. This is one of Mitz's favorites. You can watch it on Funimation, so watch all 13 episodes and jump in chat on that day, and we'll discuss the show.
Yeah, and Manga Club will be back on December 9th. We will be discussing the first two volumes, I believe it's first two, at least the first omnibus volume of Saint Young Men, which would be such a silly, fun time. So come join us. And of course, you can find us on our website and at aapodcast.com/join. Join up, you can get all of our bonus content. We are going to do a hentai episode today, which will be available later in the week, and we'll be discussing doujin series that are based on popular franchises.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, so of course, find us on iTunes, leave us a review, and thank you so much for joining. See y'all next week.
See ya.
Bye!